Netflix just released an incredibly deranged documentary called Unknown Number, The High School Catfish, directed by Sky Borgman. And I looked into this story. I admittedly have not watched this documentary because I didn't want to throw up. But basically, they reveal by the end of it that this mother was guilty of cyberbullying, anonymously harassing her own 13-year-old daughter and her 7th grade boyfriend for over a year. And she was caught after an ongoing investigation by the FBI. She's been interviewed in this documentary because, of course, she cannot resist the urge to get attention, even though she knows it's going to make her out to be the monster she is. And they have gotten a lot of backlash for even making this documentary because it takes a neutral stance and doesn't really get to the heart of the issue and her guilt in this situation. So this woman's name is Kendra Lakari. This story has actually been reported on before, but a lot of people didn't know about it until the documentary came out a few days ago. Kendra was arrested in 2022, and this was, I believe, after her 19-month prison sentence that they interviewed her for the doc. She only spent 19 months because she pled guilty to stalking a minor, being her daughter. It was 2 counts, her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. But what was essentially glossed over in the documentary is the fact that this woman is a PDF file. The motivation, from what I can tell, behind her crimes is twofold. One is, I believe this woman has something we can now call cyber Munchausen's by proxy. She was inflicting so much mental distress on her daughter in an attempt to lure her daughter back to be comforted by her mother, of course, who she wouldn't think to be the suspect. And then the second motivation is her sexual obsession with her daughter's boyfriend, who, by the way, is also 13 years old. The content of the messages is absolutely disgusting, so unless you're willing to stomach it, I wouldn't advise you looking further. She was sending her daughter messages like, you know, he hates you, he really wants me. Lots of sexually explicit messages about her boyfriend. She even went to the length of encouraging her daughter to end her own life.
Oh my God.
And thankfully that did not happen, and she was caught sooner than this could have gotten even worse. But the FBI was brought in to investigate because it sent this whole high school and this whole town really into chaos as they were wondering who is at fault for this. Is it another student? Is it a teacher? Is it some other adult in her life? And what they, of course, found out by tracing the IP address of this unknown number, it was her mother all along. And they even show the body cam footage from the moment when they finally called her out, when she had to admit guilt to her daughter and her husband. Yikes. She had even been lying to her husband about having a full-time job, when in reality she was spending all of her day, 8 hours a day, like it's a full-time job, harassing her daughter, sending her up to 50 messages from an unknown number per day, trying to essentially destroy her daughter's psyche. So here was what the director of this documentary had to say about Kendra and the outcome of the interview that they did with her. They asked, was it challenging to convince all of these people to be part of this doc, and why did they agree to be in it? The director says, everyone we talked to had such big feelings about this story. It was very immediate for them, and it was very raw, so asking them to sit down and talk to us was really a matter of me gaining their trust and understanding, and why it was they wanted to tell their story. For the most part, people just wanted to be heard, and they felt this was an important story to tell because of the cyberbullying element. It was incredibly traumatizing to everybody involved. And she includes, of course, Kendra, the perpetrator, in someone who was traumatized by these events. And I would like to show a still from her interview that just says everything you need to know about this woman. She's on the couch, bawling her eyes out, playing the victim, essentially. Wow. And she still doesn't take the blame. She even says, and I can't believe she even thought anyone would believe this shit, but she said, that at the beginning, it wasn't her. It was someone else who was bullying her daughter. So she had to start sending her daughter these messages so that she could find out who it was.
Wow.
That doesn't make any sense. I don't think I even need to explain that, but like in her deranged mind, it made sense. And she says she still doesn't entirely know why she did all of this. She has done zero self-reflection, and I believe that she is a clinical psychopath, at the very least a narcissist. And that's why these criminals always go on the documentary to do an interview about their crimes, because they feel no shame, and the only motivation they have is attention.
Do they have the daughter on the documentary?
They do, and also her
husband?
boyfriend. They also interviewed the father of the girl, yeah. And the kids have since broken up. But I believe the boyfriend said he did kind of resent Lauren, Kendra's daughter, for kind of feeling more sympathetic to her mother than she ought to. But this is why it's a classic case of Munchausen's, because the victim feels such sympathy and love for the perpetrator. It really reminds me of Gypsy Rose Blanchard's story. Mm-hmm. If you've like been watching this show for a while, I have sung the praises of The Act on Hulu, because it's basically a dramatized version of that case. Gypsy was convinced by her mother for years during her childhood and her teen years that she was much younger than she actually was. She had her documents forged, also destroyed. The mother lied to doctors about Gypsy having a whole laundry list of chronic conditions that necessitated a feeding tube, lots of medications that were incredibly damaging to her health. She didn't let Gypsy have a social life, etc. And Gypsy eventually, it just broke her, and she ended up in a toxic relationship with a man that she met online. And she, in that vulnerable state, did concoct a plan to murder her mother. The man that she met did the dirty work while she covered for him. They ran away together and got caught very quickly. They both went to prison, although Gypsy was released sooner than the guy who actually stabbed her mother to death. And even now, Gypsy says like that she regrets it, that she feels remorse, and she also misses her mom and she loves her mom. And that's a perfectly natural thing to feel, of course, towards your own parent, regardless of the fact that everyone. When Lakari's mother went to prison, she remained in regular contact with her. And at this point, I believe she said they're not in contact.
She was like bullying her through just regular
like through the prison phone calls or something. Well, now she says they're not in contact, and she's looking forward to a day when they can like repair their relationship. I rarely would say this, but like this is a case where I would say never speak to this woman again. Yeah. There is no benefit you could possibly get from continuing a relationship with your mom if she is a clinical psychopath. She has clearly done zero self-reflection. She has no version of what we would consider an interior life. She has zero conscience. And she is saying in this interview on Netflix, well, every single person has made a mistake. And it's sort of like, if someone got a DUI, would you hold that against them for the rest of their lives? Thinks that that's going to go over well. I mean, that's like, she's still defending her actions. And then when the director is asked about Kendra's interview, they said she seemed remorseful, but did you ever feel like she was putting on an act? And the director says, Kendra is an enigma. I think that she had a lot of time to think about what she did. She was in therapy while she was incarcerated, and I believe that she's still seeing a therapist. Again, if a psychopath goes to a therapist, all they do is learn how to deceive people more efficiently. She has put thought into what she did. I don't think she's fully realized or recognized what it was that she did or why she did it. I guess only Kendra could really answer that. And then in another interview that the director did with Time magazine, she spoke about this interview, and when asked what she thought of Kendra's response, the director says, I don't think what Kendra is saying is that she was afraid of what Owen would do to Lauren. One of her excuses was she was saying she was trying to protect her daughter from her boyfriend. Her fear was having her little girl grow up and go out into this bad world. She did those things to keep Lauren close to her, to have Lauren come to her for help. By sending these text messages, she was essentially forcing Lauren closer to her. And then they say the director believes it's still unclear why Kendra sent her daughter text messages encouraging her daughter to commit suicide. I do not have an answer for that. I asked her that in the documentary. You hear the question. She doesn't have a good answer. Maybe the escalation to telling Lauren to K herself is the last attempt to get her as close as she possibly can, but it seems so incredibly extreme. She says she never thought Lauren would do it, but I just don't know any parent who would ever even think of doing something like that. And thankfully, this girl, you know, is just in contact with her dad now and lives with her dad and is not in relationship with her mom anymore. But what they kept not addressing in the documentary, which is frustrating a lot of people, is that this woman is obviously a danger to children. She was clearly obsessed with this young boy sexually. He even says that after her, Owen says that after he broke up with Lauren, these two kids, her mom would still show up to his sports games without Lauren there.
That's so bizarre.
She's watching this kid from afar. She always was incredibly inquisitive about him when they were one-on-one together.
I mean, it's obvious to us that this person should be locked away, but when it comes to the law, I mean, did they just not have proof or anything of all that?
Well,
Like,
because she
her showing up?
never actually like offended against the boy. Therefore, the only way that they could incarcerate her is on the charges of stalking, which was only 19 months, which is a joke. We know that someone this deranged should be locked in a padded cell
for a long time,
the rest of their life. But we don't live in a sane society. We live in a society that's completely topsy-turvy, and we can't recognize that crazy is crazy.
You would hope that the father would at least do something, you know?
Can you imagine also being the husband in this situation?
It's like that. Well, it's also, well, it's very similar, different, a totally different situation. But the woman that was having an affair with a teenage boy, and then the husband just like found out when she got arrested. You know the story? This is like recent too. It's like just a few months ago.
I see like stories like that pop up from time to time. Yeah.
I mean, to just not know. Maybe he did know, and he didn't say anything. He's a psychopath.
He
too.
must have had a suspicion, but maybe not. It's just how do you marry someone? What do you see in them or not see in them to marry this woman? Have no idea how insane she is. Have children with this woman, and then you find out 14 years later that she's a psychopath.
Well, it makes you wonder what else might have happened before
who basically like attempted murder. I mean, it's not quite the same thing, but she clearly was willing to take it to that extreme where it would mean the end of her daughter's life. She is a predator against children.
This is why some people should just not have kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
But some people also just shouldn't like be in society with the rest of us.
That's true.
That's the best solution I can come up with. Make asylums great again.
Someone said the audio is cutting out.
Is it?
I don't know. Audio's fine for me. Okay, move on.
Is everything okay? Can they hear us?
I think we're
it's
fine.
someone else's problem, not ours.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay,
exactly.
I hope that the problem is on their end. But yeah, she's not just a bad mom or like someone who made a mistake. Like, this is pathological. This person should never be allowed back into polite society.
It's so disturbing. There's also that documentary on Netflix. It's like kid influencers. I don't know if you saw that one.
Kidfluencers.
Yes.
Yes, it was about the girl Piper Raquel,
Yep.
whose mother basically pimped her out for her entire childhood for YouTube.
Yep. And like also
Made
was
so much money off of her daughter.
being, flirtatious towards young boys as well.
Yeah, forcing her to like make suggestive thumbnails, etc. And now Piper is 18. She recently turned 18 and did this disgusting photo shoot for her birthday that was all about like how excited everyone is for her to turn 18. And she's been making content with OnlyFans creators in the Bop House who shouldn't even why would you invite a child to basically a porn studio? It's disgusting.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Bop House is like that. They
just make porn content.
Actress actors.
And they invited this child to make TikToks with them because it's so scandalizing. And Piper has been, hinting that she's going to tell the real story eventually now that she has the freedom of being an adult. maybe we'll finally hear her perspective.
Yeah,
but
that documentary kind of ended too with like, well, what's going on with the mother? Is she being charged? You know, is she being sued? Did the other families win any money in the lawsuit? Like, I don't know if there's any updates on that.
I just like can't countenance stories like this enough to like pursue the full documentary. I know enough. I know what I need to know. I've seen what I needed to see, and I've had quite enough. And by the way, it just needless to say, if this were a father who was sending sexually explicit messages to a young girl, he would be incarcerated for a much longer
yes, he
time.
would, correctly.
Thank you, guys. Okay. Track record is set. Brett is going to return. Thank you for the second party. Tonal issues. Anyway, that was my thought. I think we need a new diagnosis for this in the DSM. Cyber Munchausen's.
Cyber Munch. Yeah, I mean,
because it's not the traditional diagnostic criteria we're looking at here. She didn't convince her daughter that she had, cancer or something. She became basically an emotional terrorist. Yeah, I'm glad that this woman is getting publicly shamed, but I'm also not surprised that Netflix did an insufficient job at holding her accountable.
Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.